Om. Om. Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Yathagnir Dahika Shakti Ramakrishne Stitahiya Sarva Vidya Swarupam Tam Sharadam Pranamamyam Jananim Sharadam Devi Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Let us chant the universal selfless prayer now. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvasad buddhimapnotu, sarvasarvatra nandatu. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutangamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. May all be happy, may all be peaceful, may all be free from difficulties, free from dangers, free from diseases. May all see what is good, listen what is good, do what is good, and speak what is good to others. May all be healthy everywhere. May all be enlightened everywhere. May all be peaceful everywhere. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. So Subha Sandhya, Susandhya to everybody. Good evening to everybody. And I shall show you a small video for 2-3 minutes and balance tomorrow. It is in Telugu. Those who cannot follow Telugu, just follow the story. What is given, it is Swami Vivekananda in Hyderabad. Because people know that he went to Chicago, that he went to Kanyakumari, that he went to Calcutta, was born in Calcutta, etc. But he had come and given his first lecture in his life in Hyderabad. Very few people know. So we have made a small documentary for the benefit of the local people. English dubbing is going on. So just be happy with the storyline. Later I will summarize. It is a 7-minute video, short video, but today I will show it just for 3 minutes, balance tomorrow to save time for the guest faculty's address. Okay, please watch. Those who have not muted, I request everybody to mute your mics, please. Sandeep Garu, you should mute your mic immediately. Bite sounds rakudandi.
స్వామి వివేకానంద హైదరాబాద్ సందర్శనం. అవి భారతావని దాస్య శృంఖలాలతో ఆంగ్లేయుల చెరలో ఉన్న రోజులు. వాటి నుంచి విముక్తి పొందేందుకై పోరాటాలు జరుగుతున్న రోజులు అవే. సరిగ్గా అప్పుడే ఒక ఆశా కిరణం తన జ్ఞాన సముపార్జనతో యావత్ దేశాన్ని చైతన్యపరిచింది. ప్రజలలో పేరుకుపోయిన అజ్ఞానాన్ని, తామెప్పుడూ బానిసలమనే అసత్యపు పొరలను తొలగిస్తూ దేశ ప్రజలకు వేదాంత సారాన్ని బోధించింది. ఆ సమర శంఖారావమే స్వామి వివేకానంద. స్వామీజీ పరివ్రాజకుడిగా మొత్తం భారతదేశాన్ని పర్యటన సాగించారు. ప్రజల సమస్యలను ప్రత్యక్షంగా చూస్తూ వారి వేదనలను గ్రహించారు. సంకల్పం ఎంత గొప్పదో జీవితంలోని క్లిష్ట పరిస్థితుల్లో మనకు తెలిసి వస్తుంది. చేపట్టిన పనిని త్రికరణ శుద్ధిగా అమలుపరిచేందుకు సిద్ధమైనప్పుడు కాగల కార్యాన్ని సమస్త శక్తులు ఒక్కటై నెరవేరుస్తాయి. అమెరికా వెళ్లేందుకు పరిపరి విధాలుగా ఆలోచిస్తూ సంశయ స్థితిలో ఉన్న స్వామీజీకి హైదరాబాద్ నుంచి ఆహ్వానం అందింది. దీని వెనక దైవ సంకల్పం ఉండే అవకాశాన్ని స్వామీజీ సైతం భావించకపోలేదు. అటు స్వామీజీ తన ఆప్తుల నుంచి కూడా హైదరాబాద్ను సందర్శించాల్సిందిగా పలుమార్లు ఆహ్వానాలు అందుకున్నారు. ఆ రోజు రానే వచ్చింది. స్వామీజీ రాక ఖరారైంది. ఫిబ్రవరి 10వ తేదీన ఆయనకు స్వాగతం పలికేందుకు హిందువులు, మహమ్మదీయులు కలిసి సుమారు 500 మంది వేచి ఉన్నారు. వివేకానందుల వారి రాకతో ఈ నేల సైతం ప్రవశించేందుకు సన్నద్ధమవుతున్నట్లుగా ఉండింది అక్కడి వాతావరణం. కాషాయ వస్త్రాలు ధరించి చేతిలో కమండలంతో ఫస్ట్ క్లాస్ పెట్టె నుండి దిగారు స్వామీజీ. నవాబ్ సికిందర్ జంగ్ సహా పలువురు స్వామీజీని ఘనంగా ఆహ్వానించారు. వారిలో హైదరాబాదులో అత్యున్నత పదవుల్లో ఉన్న వ్యక్తులు, సంఘంలోని పెద్ద మనుషులు కూడా ఉన్నారు. ఒక సన్యాసికి ఇంత ఘనమైన స్వాగతం లభించడం మునుపెన్నడూ చూడలేదని ఈ దృశ్యాన్ని ప్రత్యక్షంగా వీక్షించిన ఒకరు తన స్మృతులలో రాసుకోవడం వివేకానందుల వారి మహత్వాన్ని చాటి చెప్తుంది. మరుసటి రోజున అంటే ఫిబ్రవరి 11 స్వామీజీని కలిసేందుకు సికింద్రాబాద్ నుంచి 100 మంది వచ్చారు. ఖుర్షిద్ జా రాజప్రసాదాన్ని స్వీకరించిన అనంతరం ఆ రోజు హైదరాబాద్ లోని పలు చారిత్రక ప్రదేశాలను వీక్షించారు స్వామీజీ. మక్కా మసీద్, నిజాం రాజప్రసాదాలు, పలు హిందూ దేవాలయాలను సైతం సందర్శించారు.
Yes, we shall put a pause here, mentioning the fact that Swamiji stayed in Hyderabad for 7 days, 1893, and gave his first public lecture on the request of the local people, and met the Nawab, met the Nizam, and his topic was My Mission to the West. Local people wanted to know why he is going to the West, what is his plan, etc., etc. Then in Hyderabad, he had a fantastic experience in meeting a yogi who had tremendous occult powers, and so he demonstrated to Swamiji the power of the mind and over matter. That experience Swamiji gave in a lecture in America called Powers of the Mind. In that it is mentioned how he got that experience, how ancient yogis used to meditate and conquer the external nature and get what they want. So it was all there, and due to time and history and lack of willpower, all these yogic powers melted away, or it remained only with few people. So that lecture is very famous in Hyderabad. 500 people came to receive him, forget about send off. And when he was about to go back to Madras, before going to America, 1,000 people went to railway station. 3,000 people attended his talk. So this is Swamiji's power, how he solved the problems of the country. Even after 125 years, we have not yet read Vivekananda completely, only glorifying him or sometimes praising him, and forget Vivekananda, you be there, I will be in the market. So that is why psychological problems come. We are not taking Swamiji seriously. So those who are attending this course today, or this 1 week, today is the fifth day of the course. First day we had fun 2 days, moral crisis, then psychological crisis by Dr. Sumita Roy. Yesterday, leadership crisis, first part by Professor Ravichandran. And today, second part of the psychological crisis by another wonderful faculty, Dr. Usha Vastare. She is online. And about her, a small note of introduction for the people. I'll hand over to Ambika Thapar, our volunteer. Ambika? You can unmute and speak. Yeah. Ambika co-host chain, I know. Akshita, make Ambika co-host.
Yes, Swamiji. Yes, Swamiji. Ambika ji, please unmute yourself and speak. Maharaj, she's already a co-host, Maharaj.
Yes, 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 you will come. Okay,
Am I audible now? Am I audible?
you are.
Pranam Swamiji, Namaste, Dr. Usha Vastare. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Usha Vastare for this evening session. Dr. Usha Vastare is the co-founder of Yogakshema Rehabilitation and Wellness Center, Bengaluru, in 2007. She is a neuroscientist, teacher, writer, and social worker. She is closely associated with Ramakrishna Mutt centers in the country and is a guest faculty at the Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence. She was a faculty at Temple University School of Medicine, USA, for 17 years. Subsequently, she worked as clinical project coordinator, Parkinson's disease and movement disorder, Pennsylvania Hospital, which honored her with Service Excellence Award. Dr. Usha has contributed to 5 books which were used as part of CME, that is Continuing Medical Education course. She has published more than 70 research papers and abstracts in reputed journals. She was academic research advisor for MDs, postdoctoral fellows, PhDs, and master students, and has been trained in hospital care for terminally ill. She is involved in extensive service projects both in India and USA for 10 years and is associated with several organizations and institutes. Dr. Usha Vastare has facilitated over 400 support group meetings at Yogakshema and conducted several workshops on mind training, mindful living, healthy living, overcoming automatic negative thoughts, forgiveness, improving interpersonal relationships, depression, stress management, and various other topics. Her interest is in bringing the latest research in the field of neuroscience and evolutionary biology to the doorsteps of common man. She is an avid reader of scientific and spiritual literature. Her interest is to bring science and spirituality together for a holistic living. Welcome, ma'am. We all welcome you and would like to introduce us with your knowledge, enlighten us with your experience and great expertise. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes. So, dear friends, those who are attending, participants, please note down the points, etc. And there will be a PowerPoint presentation also by Dr. Usha Vastare. And since she has got other activities, we could not involve in this particular course. But for your information, she will be taking 3 sessions next week on how to overcome depression, steps to overcome depression. So based on Swami Vivekananda's teachings, she'll be taking 3 days of 1.5 hours each. So those who are interested or who would like to have more knowledge and for themselves and for the welfare of the country, which is passing through terrible times. One is the COVID times, another economic times, the health crisis, the mental problems, mental illnesses in the students, in the youth is a very dangerous trend, not a good trend for the country. When Vivekananda says strength is life and weakness is death, our fellow says weakness is life, strength is death. We succumb to the pressure. Simple mobile. I keep telling students, 6 inches mobile is controlling 6 feet man and 60 kilo personality in spite of his education. and addictions and all this drama that we do, PUBGs and VIHEs and all that stuff, which is eating our brahmacharya, eating our purity, eating our strength of mind. So we have to counterattack. Vitarka badane pratipaksha bhavanam, Patanjali Maharshi said. When there is a negative force, we have to give a counterattack. Antibiotics we have to give. So deep-rooted treatment we have to give. So we are working on this along with Dr. Usha and a couple of other wonderful people in Bombay and other places. So I requested Dr. Usha Vastare to speak today on psychological crisis, managing psychological crisis, and more so with Swamiji's ideas. And next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll have a much more detailed discussion on overcoming depression, which will help the youngsters and others in the country. So over to Dr. Usha Vastare for the next 1 hour plus. Thank you, Ma. Welcome and guide these youngsters.
Thank you, Swamiji. Whenever there is psychological crisis, when a person goes to a hospital or a medical care setting, the hospitals will follow such flow charts. There will be an algorithm set already to see about the condition of the patient and to see where the patient lies in. For example, if we just look at this flow chart, it is quite complicated, but I'll just walk you through it so that you'll be able to appreciate both how the hospitals manage certain psychological crises and what is it that we can learn from that, and what is it that we should be doing. So when a patient enters the hospital through various different ways, they'll figure out two things: whether a person or a patient is prone to any kind of suicidal attempts, or if the person is prone to any kind of substance abuse. It could be any kind of addiction, especially in these days, technology addiction too. So based on that, they separate. And when the person is not, does not have any suicidal tendencies or does not have much addiction tendencies, and they follow this course, in the sense, finally they will do some kind of psychotherapy and they send them home, and they say if it reoccurs, they have to go back and go through the whole rigmarole again. What happens to the person if that person does not go back to have more and more psychotherapy sessions? They will end up either having certain health issues or certain relationship issues, or they start blaming everything on the crisis that they are going through, for not be able to do whatever they want to do, for not be able to achieve whatever they have set up to achieve, not be able to be successful as they would like to be. And following the blaming, they lack this zest for living. For everything, they keep giving crisis as an excuse. See, what you see here is, without any kind of addictive issues, without being prone to any suicide attacks, this is the majority of the people that we see. Majority of the people will fall under this category. So for them, it's mostly for people like us. There is no need to go to the hospital, but yet they're not able to overcome a crisis. For example, like what we are going through, a pandemic. So for such people, then how do we manage crisis? This next 1 hour discussion is going to be how do we turn any crisis into an opportunity? Yes, there is a way to convert a crisis to an opportunity. And that is what we're going to be seeing today. Not just to manage crisis, that also you will get, but much more than that. How do we blossom? How do we evolve through this crisis? So then what is crisis? Before we go to that, if we look at crisis, it comes under many different levels. It could be global level, like what is happening, a pandemic all over the world. At a national level, it could be a situation like a war between two nations. Community level, communal fights and whatnot. And then family level crisis and individual level crisis. At a family level, if somebody loses their loved one, or if they lose a job, either at the family level or the individual level. When that happens, what we see is either it could be a life or death situation, then it is very clear cut. Then it falls under emergency. We're going to see the difference between crisis and emergency. We're going to understand the difference between crisis and stress. So if it is a question of life or death, like it happened in the beginning weeks of COVID, everybody was afraid, and so they were very cautious, and without any kind of blaming they went through. But when this prolongs, such a crisis prolongs, then we know it is not just the life or death situation for most of the people. It could be financial loss. It could be short-term financial loss, or it could be long-term financial loss, or it could affect the health, either the physical health or the mental health, both short-term and long-term. When that happens, then what is the solution? So for that, the rest of the 1 hour talk, I will be focusing on crisis at family level and individual level, taking this pandemic as an example, and how we can convert this crisis into an opportunity. So what is a crisis? They say in mental health terminology, a crisis refers not necessarily to a traumatic situation or an event like this pandemic, but more so to a person's reaction to that event. And a crisis cannot be resolved by a person's customary problem-solving resources and skills. This is the key thing. If it is a crisis, a person is not able to handle with the resources or certain problem-solving skills a person has, one will not be able to overcome this crisis. This is where the difference between crisis and stress is, which I'm going to go to it in a minute or so. And then if we cannot overcome the crisis by the current problem-solving skills one has, then we need to go deeper into our knowledge base, and we need to acquire more knowledge as to how to overcome this crisis, knowledge and skills. This is where the statement by Albert Einstein comes to my mind, that the problems cannot be solved at the same level of thinking. We need to go beyond that level of thinking where the problem was created. And that is where I say we need to develop a different type of mindset to be able to overcome any crisis, but we will try and focus mostly on pandemic today. But whatever I say will hold good for any type of crisis, and not just at family level and individual level, at all different levels, but we're going to focus at the individual level and family level today. So what is the definition of a crisis? A crisis, again, is a disruption or breakdown in a person's or family's normal or usual pattern of functioning, One person might be deeply affected by an event, while other individual might suffer little or with no ill effects. So a crisis may be different from a problem or emergency. We're going to see what that means. How can it be different from an emergency? And more importantly, some people will be affected a whole lot more than others. We're going to understand why. And the same person, as it is happening with the pandemic, they were able to go through this first several weeks or several months. But if the crisis prolongs as it is happening now, the same person who was able to cope earlier may not be able to cope in the same way. So taking all these factors into consideration, let us see the difference between an emergency and a crisis. An emergency involves life-threatening situation. So it needs immediate attention, immediate response, and immediate attention. Whereas a crisis may not have any life-threatening situation, may not. And so there is an opportunity and there is time that we can make use of to be able to change. Whereas an emergency needs immediate action, a crisis has an opportunity for change, an opportunity to transform, an opportunity to evolve. So this is the major difference between crisis and an emergency. And this is an interesting fact. Crisis, the way it is said in Chinese word, it has two different words in Chinese. One involves danger, the other one involves opportunity. This is where we're going to see how crisis can be turned into an opportunity for us to evolve. When that happens, there is time, there is an opportunity, there is a chance to rebuild ourselves, to change, to transform, to refocus our priorities, and to see our life by prioritizing the whole events and our goals in life, both short-term and long-term. Keeping this in mind, let us look through the rest of the slides. In a crisis, we need to be focusing on the solution, but not on the problem. Extremely important, because when we are focusing on the solution, we will do whatever that is necessary, just like it happened in the early days of pandemic. Everybody was so afraid, or because of fear and anxiety about the disease itself, they were able to maintain the social distance, all the regulations that were put forth by both WHO and at the national level, they were following because they were focusing on the solution, how to overcome all of this. But once we start focusing just on the problem, we get stuck. Extremely important to know. Keep your focus on the solution. So when we change the way we look at things, the things you look at will change. This is one of my favorite quotes by Wayne Dyer and many others who have said this. This is one of the hallmark quotes of Yogakshema. We use this all the time. How can we change? When we cannot change the situation, can we change the way we are looking at the situation? What I mean by that is, if you just take a look at this, when you look at it one way, it looks like a rabbit. When you look at it the other way, it looks like a bird. In the same way, a crisis can be looked at from quote unquote survival perspective. We need to go through whatever we need to go through, deal with it, adjust to it, so that we can just survive through this and get over it. That is one of the attitudes. And then another way of looking at the situation is, can we take this as an opportunity to evolve? Many of us will not be able to know how to do it. That is why I even thank Swamiji for giving me an opportunity with such a topic, because this gives a great opportunity for us to look at any situation, not just a crisis, any situation in life, and turn it around and see what is it that we can learn and how can we become better human beings because of this crisis. So Swami Vivekananda's statement comes to my mind, wherein he says, take up one idea and make that idea your own. Dream of it, think of it, and live on that idea. So can we live on the idea and see crisis as an opportunity to evolve? If that is the case, can we make this one idea, like Swami Vivekananda says, let that one idea be to evolve through this crisis. So I would like you to go through the rest of the talk, keeping this one idea in mind. How can we make use of this crisis? What we are going through, what all of us are going through. How can we make this crisis as an opportunity to evolve? So how do we make this crisis to evolve? There are three things that we need to remember. One is to have proper knowledge. Another one is proper action. And the last aspect is proper attitude. I will walk you through the whole presentation and then give you step-by-step way of understanding what is this proper knowledge about this crisis. Is it something that we don't know already? Or what is this proper action? We are taking care of everything right now. And then what attitude is this? Is this just a positive attitude? So let us see. Let me walk you through this whole presentation in a stepwise manner so that my hope and wish is that you're going to be convinced as much as I have to be able to see any crisis, not just this crisis, any crisis as a way to evolve through it. So first, let us look at what is proper knowledge. I'm not going to talk about COVID in particular, what you need to be doing, that we all know. And this, whether it is proper knowledge, action, and attitude, I'm going to make it so general so that this discussion and this sharing will help you for the rest of your lives. This will leave an impact for you for the rest of your life, how to convert any crisis to something where we can evolve. So what is this proper knowledge? Let us look at it from a neuroscientific perspective. Any kind of crisis, the brain reacts to crisis. How does it react? We need to remember just three things. One is the brain reacts in an immediate manner without thinking. That is why we call that as an emotional response. And how do we respond to it in an immediate manner? By overreacting. Reacting is one thing, but in a crisis, we overreact because it is our reaction to the crisis is over and beyond to the crisis situation itself. This overreaction to any crisis, how the brain reacts, we're going to see. These three things, if you remember, this is what will help for us to have proper knowledge. This is what, in technical terms, we call it amygdala hijacking. What do I mean by that? What is amygdala? What does hijacking means in a structure? of the brain. Amygdala is a small part that is in the deeper layers of the brain. It's an almond-shaped structure. And whenever there is stimulus from outside through our sense organs, either we hear or we see, all the stimuli we get, it first goes through a region called thalamus. From thalamus, usually it goes to what we call, you all have heard about this, called cortex or cerebral hemispheres. However, during crisis, the stimuli from the thalamus, instead of going to the cerebral structures or the cerebral hemispheres or the cortical structures, it goes to this little region called amygdala, that almond-shaped structure. See, if it goes to our higher center of the brain called cortex or cerebral hemisphere, this is very well developed in humans. Then we have the capability to think. However, instead of the signal going to our cortex, it goes to this little part called amygdala, which is present even in animals. An animal, when it is faced with crisis or a danger, this is what happens. And the amygdala gets activated and it pours out a lot of chemicals. What type of chemicals? These chemicals are the ones that cause fear. These chemicals are the ones that cause anxiety. These chemicals are the ones that will cause us panic attacks. And all these negative chemicals, they pour into the brain, and through the brain and through the blood vessels and nerve endings get distributed throughout the body, and it will have various different physical effects, which we don't need to go through. So what happens when this amygdala gets overactivated? We lose the power of discrimination. We will not be able to realize what is correct, what is wrong, what is good, what is evil, what is true, what is false, because our emotions take over. So the amygdala hijacks the part of the brain that helps us to think, that helps us to think in a discriminative fashion. So the amygdala hijacks the higher center of the brain, so that we lose the power to discriminate. The discerning power is lost. Our willpower is lost. And the power to choose what we need to do is lost. And not only do we lose these three powers of our conscious mind, but the power which is very important called self-awareness, which is what makes us human, this gets heightened. However, it gets heightened because there are so many negative chemicals that are poured into. Our awareness of ourselves will be colored with a lot of negativity. So we get into what we call it as a fight response, or a flight response, or a freeze response. If any of you have attended my stress management sessions, you will see this is what happens even during stress. The difference between stress and crisis is stress we are able to manage a lot of times on our own, and there are times where we won't feel stressful, so we're able to manage, and there are many ways and tools that we know we can manage. Whereas with crisis, we lose that capability of discerning power and our willpower. And because especially a situation like this, a crisis, a pandemic like this, it gets worsened, because usually stress is at an individual level. The triggers for an individual will be different from the next individual. So we can actually compare notes and then see how we can deal with this. Whereas a crisis, especially what we are going through, it's not just for us. It is all over serve the world. So where do we go to for help? And so we need to truly rely on ourselves, truly rely on the inner power that we have, and then try to overcome this. So because of this, what happens? Our self-control, capability of self-control is lost during crisis. And when we lose self-control, what does Swami Vivekananda says? I'm going to try and bring a lot of what Vivekananda has said in many situations, and so we can actually learn from his teachings. He says, if you don't learn to control your thoughts or your emotions for that matter, you will never ever learn to control your behavior. So we really need to control our thoughts and control our feelings, because when amygdala gets activated, we lose the thinking pattern, we lose our thought process. It's filled with emotions and all negative emotions and negative feelings. And another saying wherein it says life challenges, and especially a crisis like this, it's not supposed to paralyze and freeze us, that they are supposed to help us discover who we truly are. This is what we are going to do from a scientific perspective to discover who we are, just like what I have started, what happens in the brain. And we are going to see Vivekananda's way of seeing who we are and to see how we can overcome. I'm going to combine both the scientific angle and the spiritual angle, especially through Vivekananda's angle. So we just covered the proper knowledge that we need to have to be able to convert the crisis into evolving mode. And then now let us look into proper action. What do I mean by proper action? I like this quote a lot. It says, you're always, no matter what, you are always responsible for how you act, how you behave, no matter how you feel inside. But as we keep training our thoughts, as we keep training our feelings, both these two will be in harmony later. But until we train our thoughts and feelings, remember, try, and you are always responsible for how you act, no matter how you feel. So how do we act? To do the right thing each time, every time, and always to be doing the right thing. This is proper action. For that, we need lot of self-discipline, self-control, self-discipline, self-regulation, all mean the same thing. So we need self-discipline, but because of amygdala hijacking our higher center, we lose this self-discipline. Yes, at times, especially a crisis like this, our normal discipline routine might be affected, but we need to go into new normal and then form a different discipline routine as much as possible, and to carry on this discipline routine as much as possible. So again, bringing spirituality into the picture, Saint Francis of Assisi, one of great saints, a Christian saint, says, start by doing what is necessary, especially in crisis like this. Only what is necessary for the time being. Focus on the present moment. Just do whatever is necessary. And then it will help you to do whatever that is possible for you to do. In a crisis like this, even though it is possible for us to do many things, we won't be able to. So first focus on whatever that is necessary, that should be done, start doing it without fail. that will help us to do whatever that is possible for us to do. And if we keep doing this again and again, and suddenly we see we can actually do something that can even be impossible. Something like taking this crisis as an opportunity to be evolving. So that is the hope that lot of saints, Vivekananda, Saint Francis of Assisi, and many other saints have given us, and scientists too. So again, this is where Vivekananda's quote, which says the whole point of mind training is to discipline the mind. He says that. So to do the right thing, we just need to have self-discipline, which involves self-control. I would like to use the term self-regulation rather than control. All these three are very much important to be doing the right thing. So we have covered proper knowledge and proper action. Now, proper attitude. What is the proper attitude? The proper attitude now is not just to have a positive attitude, not just to have a growth attitude. Another term for attitude is mindset. Not just to have a growth mindset, but even more than that, to develop an evolving mindset, to develop a transformative mindset so that we can utilize the crisis to truly transform ourselves. And for that, what does it involve? It involves three things, as you can see in this trefoil ring. The three things that are necessary are self-control or self-regulation. Along with that, we need the discrimination power, viveka or the vivechana shakti, discerning power. And just those two are not going to be enough, but a strong desire to come out better than what we were before, better than before the crisis started. So that strong desire to truly better and to be evolving is really, really important. And these three features are what is going to help us to truly evolve. And these three together is what is called like an evolving mindset or a transformative mindset. And for that, it is not a stage. Evolving is not a stage to reach. And this evolving is moment to moment to moment. Yes, instead of evolving, at times we might behave as though we are just coping with it. We're just dealing with it. We're just adjusting with it. This is what I call it as survival mode, survival mindset. Sometimes it might happen, it is okay. But every moment we have an opportunity, or the next moment we have an opportunity to evolve from that stage. So what does it take apart from self-control and the discerning power? It takes a lot of strength and courage to be able to develop this evolving mindset. And where do we get the strength? That strength we need actually comes from the crisis itself. So when we are struggling to overcome this crisis, if we have the evolving mindset, that is what gives us the strength. Otherwise, if we just go through this crisis, either blaming or putting up with that, instead of getting the strength, we are just waiting for the crisis to be over so that we can go back to our old ways. Whereas when we have that transformative or evolving mindset, we look forward to a better us after the crisis, so that it would have helped us to be a better person than what we were before. And actually, the crisis itself is a prerequisite for an evolving mindset. So again, a quote by Vivekananda comes to my mind, wherein he says, strength, strength and strength. Say that to yourself day and night, that you are strong, that you are pure and you are free. If you can remember that statement and be strong, this is what will give you that strength to develop that evolving mindset. So where does the courage come from? Another quote by Lao Tzu, one of my favorites too. It says, being deeply loved by someone gives us the strength, while loving someone deeply gives us the courage. This is also what Vivekananda said, that pure love, which has no motive, love for love's sake, that is what we need to develop. And if we develop that love for an ideal, remembering Vivekananda for what he is, that is the ideal. Love Vivekananda for the ideal, not just the man, his message, which is so very important. Whatever he has said, everything that needs to be said under the sun, can you take up one message that is relevant for you at that time and keep him as an ideal and love that ideal and love the cause that you're working for? This is what will give you the courage. Just to give you an example, simple thing as what Vivekananda said, be good and do good, or manifest that goodness that is already within you, manifest that perfection that is already within you. Take one message, take that as an ideal, and that is what will give you the courage to go through anything in life. So the next aspect is to develop an attitude of gratitude, which again helps towards developing that evolving mindset. What is that gratitude that is so important? Because they say, there's a known saying, best attitude is gratitude. When we are grateful, it reduces our own negativity and reduces self-wallowing. When we go through crisis, we are only focusing on ourselves. And even that focusing on ourselves is because of all the negative chemicals that are released. We're only focusing on the negative aspects, either within ourselves, or if whatever we are focusing outside is always going to be something negative. However, when we develop this attitude of gratitude, automatically it will help us to focus something that is good, both inside us and what is outside. However, we need to remember this. Lot of times, yes, we are grateful, but we fail to express that gratitude that we already feel. This is a nice quote which reminds us in a very simple, kind manner, saying that feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a gift but not giving it to somebody, keeping it to yourself. Does that make sense? When we have bought a gift, when we have wrapped it up to give the gift, we've done all of that. But if we don't give the gift, many a times when we keep it within ourselves, that is what it means. However, when we express that gratitude, it could be in many different ways, it truly drives deeper and truly magic happens within us. This is where it turns it around and to show us how easily we can keep focusing on something that is positive, something that is good, both within ourselves and in others and in external situation too. So if I have to just recap whatever I have said, proper knowledge, we said proper knowledge is like amygdala hijacking the higher center of the brain, proper action, which is doing the right thing, always try and do the right thing, and have a proper attitude, that is developing an evolving mindset or a transformative mindset. But knowing all of this, it's not that easy. There is something we need to know and we need to understand. This is again where science comes into the rescue, wherein just knowing all of this is not enough. We also have to know, even so, sometimes it is not possible to evolve. Then what is it? What is it that is preventing us to be evolving moment to moment basis? That is what we're going to know. What is it that is preventing us? Because I'm going to go through this in a scientific manner. Again, this is common for everybody, not just for some of us who are going through a crisis. Whether we're going through a crisis or not, whatever our goals are, whatever, if we want to be happy, if we want to be successful, who doesn't want to be? What is it that is preventing us? This is the whole crux of understanding from a scientific perspective, saying that this bias, another word for bias is partiality, negativity bias, which is the broadest of neuroscience concept, which is again common for everybody, that prevents us to evolve on from a moment to moment basis. What does that mean? Because we all have partiality towards negativity, without any exception, whether somebody is a saint or a scientist, professor or a student, doctor or a patient, president or a pauper, irrespective of somebody, we all have this negativity bias within us innately. And because of this negativity bias, there will be a lot of what you see on the picture, ants. That ant is very symbolic. It represents, it's an acronym, ANT, automatic negative thoughts. These automatic negative thoughts, because of the negativity bias that is within us, they become so much within our mind and brain, and our brain and mind acts like Velcro for these automatic negative thoughts. And the same brain and mind acts like Teflon material. Teflon is something that we know, it is that non-stick material that your mothers and grandmothers have in the kitchen. Anybody can make a dosa, even a child can make a dosa on that non-stick pan. So our brain and mind acts like Teflon for anything that is positive. And for anything that is negative, it sticks like Velcro. This is what prevents us to evolve, because there are so many negative thoughts when compared to positive thoughts as such. And moreover, they stick to our mind, whereas the positive thoughts get washed away on a Teflon material. Because of this, what happens? There is accumulation of automatic negative thoughts. From now on, I'm going to call that as ants. And when these ants go unchecked and unnoticed, that will affect our self-discipline. That will have an effect on our self-control. That will have an effect on our discerning power, on our Vivekana Shakti. That will have an effect on our willpower. So much so, these unchecked ants and unnoticed and unchecked ants will affect our learning will affect our interpersonal relationships, will affect our health. It affects our entire life itself. We just need to go a little bit deeper and understand the effects of these ants. As such, they will have an effect on the proper attitude which we are trying to develop, on the evolving mindset, and on the proper action to be doing the right thing each time, every time. We won't be able to do because of these automatic negative thoughts, which are because of the negativity bias that is innate within us. So what happens when we have too many of these ants? Let us see. When we have too many of these automatic negative thoughts, our mind goes like a pendulum between our past and our future. When we look at the past, we look at it with regret. And when we look at the future, it is filled with anxiety, fear, and pessimism. And whatever is happening in the present moment, it is unsatisfactory. For many of us, this COVID has very little effect. It has not affected financially. It has given a lot of positive effects, but still, when we look at our situation right now, it feels unsatisfactory. Because of this negativity bias, and because of accumulation of these automatic negative thoughts, we keep going back and forth between past and future, and we can never stay in the present moment. The present moment, here and now, now and here. This is the culprit. This is what prevents us to evolve. As long as we can train ourselves to be in the present moment, to be in the here and now and here in a mindful manner, without judging, without blaming the external situation, without blaming ourselves, without judging ourselves, without judging external circumstances. If we can focus and carry out our new routine in a highly disciplined manner with newer goals, positive goals, this is what will help us to develop an evolving mindset. But when we can't do that, what are the consequences of this? Ants. We cannot be doing the right thing each time, every time. We stop being grateful for the things we already have, and we cannot be proactive. We cannot learn new things, and we shun away from responsibilities that we have on our platter, and we start blaming the external situation and defending ourselves. Not only that, we cannot be as empathetic as we want to be, and it is going to be very hard for us to be kind both on ourselves and on others. And we become very frustrated. One thing to remember is there is no magic pill that comes that will help us to get rid of these automatic negative thoughts. These automatic negative thoughts are just like bad brain habits. And when we have this lot of ants, these ants take over. We lose the capacity to think. Because even though they are thoughts, negative thoughts, these are thoughts lead to automatic negative feelings and emotions. So a saving grace here to know most of these automatic negative thoughts are false. So as long as we can be aware that these are ants, and it does help because in crisis, our self-awareness is heightened. And then we need to remember this. Oh, these are all automatic negative thoughts. And most of the automatic negative thoughts are false. So do not believe these negative thoughts or feelings that we get. So that self-talk saying that these are automatic negative thoughts, these are negative feelings, and most of these automatic negative thoughts are false, that kind of self-talk actually helps us. Because previously, if we don't do that, when the automatic negative thoughts take over, because we lose our discerning power, we get into that vicious loop of blaming and defending. So we need to overcome that. That is the way. This is where again Swamiji's statement comes to my mind wherein he says, when an idea exclusively occupies the mind, it is transformed into an actual physical or mental state. Of course, being Vivekananda, he is giving us a positive message. He's talking about it in a positive way. But mind you, these are all higher truths, not only for something positive. The statement is true even for something that is negative, especially a crisis like this, when our amygdala is so activated because of the release of all those negative chemicals. We get into so many of those automatic negative thoughts and feelings. It does have an effect on our mental state and our physical state, but in a negative way. So remember at that time what Vivekananda says, I need to come out of this negativity. If you just say that, and to remember this, most of these ants are false, so I am not going to believe these ants, even though they are coming from my own mind. I am not going to believe these ants is what is going to empower you. This is how you can overcome. So the next 5 minutes, I'm going to use this to conclude and to give you some action points, because until now I have laid down the summary. I'm going to summarize for all the things that I have laid down now. Again, going back to proper knowledge, which is the little part of the brain, amygdala, gets overactivated and it hijacks the cerebral cortex, and we lose self-control because of that. Understanding this, so we need to develop self-control, and especially so during crisis, and the proper action to be doing the right thing each time and every time. For that, we need self-discipline, and we should always have that hope which will help us to be doing the right thing each time and every time, and the proper attitude in developing an evolving mindset and a transformative mindset. I'm going to give the final punchline for this evolving mindset at the end using Swami Vivekananda's message. So some of the action points I'll quickly go over. We know all of this, but in context, when you know, it will make sense. And it is in a structured, in a encapsulated form, so that it will be easier for you to go over. We need to think about our health in terms of health crisis. How does any crisis will affect our health? It is because of our eating habits. Either we don't eat the proper food, or we overeat, or we do binge eating. Especially youngsters these days do a lot of binge eating. And then lack of physical activity. And not only that, use of technology really is affecting our health. And I have heard from many parents, especially during this COVID times, and their youngsters, teenagers who are students, who have to stay home and go through their coursework. They are getting addicted to technology. And all of a sudden, such bright students, they are going down the slippery slope because of some addiction to the technology. So we need to keep an eye on that. And financial crisis. Now, before that, so eating habits is really important. what we eat, how we eat, and not just crisis time. This is where you see, if we are doing all of this beforehand, and then it will be easy for us to continue doing crisis. And if we have not done until now any of this, but it is never ever too late. We can start taking care of all of this from now on, taking care of our eating habits, taking care of our physical, increasing our physical activity, and to have some control of use of technology. In the same way, financial crisis, can we make it a practice to do small savings each time, every time, each month, whatever. If we have done all of that, the financial crisis is not, we will be able to deal with it little bit easier than otherwise. And to keep track of our impulsive spending, and to withhold and control that impulsive spending nature, which will help to go through the financial crisis. And more importantly, the interpersonal relationships, our open communication with our loved ones, with our family, and with our friends, and active listening skills, extremely important. It's all the time, and especially so during crisis. And especially these days when we have to live with our own lived ones 24/7, we need to learn to take it easy. We need to learn to laugh it out. We need to let go of others or little nuances, what we call it as kirkiris, others kirkiri, not to be honed on, to be so controlling, to be doing exactly one person's way, but to let go and to embrace the diversity even amongst our own loved ones, various different ways of doing things. With that, more conclusive action points is, it says again, there is a lot of neuroscience research that shows who are you associating with. In Sanskrit, this is what we call satsanga. It's extremely important, especially during crisis. And it says there is so much neuroscience research that has happened. You show me 5 people that you are associating with, I will tell you what you're going to be in the future. So choose your friends, who you associate with in a conscious, mindful manner. It's extremely important. There will always be energy suckers. Try to keep them away and try to associate with people who breed positivity, who nurture positivity in a genuine manner, not in a superficial manner. And how much and what are we watching on our TV, on our social media? How much are we reading? What are we reading? To curtail the information on crisis. We need to know whatever we need to know for facts and figures about the crisis, we need to know. But the rest we need to use to learn something new, to know and understand something positive, especially during crisis time. You watch whatever you're watching, read whatever you're reading, that will bring your mind up to a higher level. Never let your mind go down. So are you having a daily routine? Sometimes we may have to change our daily routine, especially in a case like a pandemic, like what we are going through. Let it be a new routine, but have that discipline of following a daily routine, and do all of this in a conscious, mindful, effortful manner. And lastly, but not the least, is, do we have meaningful relationships? Do we have meaningful relationships with our family? Do we have meaningful relationships with our friends? Not just utilitarian relationships, but real, meaningful, and purposeful relationships. Because the relationships are the ones that are going to take you through any crisis, come what may. So it is if we have not done any of this, we can start from today, from this moment. It is never ever too late for us to start changing, to start transforming ourselves, to start evolving ourselves. This moment is the right moment. And for that, we need to figure out the priorities in life and to keep doing the right thing each time and every time. I keep saying that. And the last two slides, I'm just going to finish up with Swamiji saying, I truly, truly believe, and I say this any place I go, that any problem, it does not matter what problem it is, every problem has a spiritual solution. Why do I say that? And how do I say that? That I say based on Swamiji's saying, which is, he quotes, each soul is potentially divine. If we can understand that, and if we can follow that, he says, the whole of religion and the whole of education is to manifest this divinity that is already within us. And sometimes when I say this divinity, it is confusing for a lot of youngsters. So maybe we can change that to rather than divinity for us to understand. For implementation purposes, maybe we can call that as goodness, manifesting the goodness that is within you and to manifest that goodness in others. That goodness is already present within us. The whole goal of our life, the whole goal of being humans is to manifest this goodness or to manifest this perfection in Swamiji's language. And the reason for education is this, to manifest that goodness that is already within us. And not only that, we can go one step further to manifest this goodness in others too. This is where, again, Swamiji is saying, never say no. Never say I cannot, because you are infinite. Because all the power that is needed to manifest that goodness that is already within you, that power is already within you. And you can do anything. I know this is a very high and lofty message. For some of us, when we hear this, it takes us to a different realm. But at the same time, for some of you, it might be, oh, this is too much, too intense, too ideal, I cannot handle. For that, the same Vivekananda's message, I will give it to you in a very simple manner. What all I have said, in a very simple manner, saying that life has only two rules. The first rule of life is never ever quit. This is what Swamiji said, right? Arise, awake, stop not until the goal is reached. It's a high Upanishad message. And for simply, I can say, never quit. This we can easily understand. That is one rule. I said there are two rules in life, right? What is the second rule? I'm going to finish my talk by giving you the second rule. Remember the first rule, never ever quit. And the second rule is always remember rule number 1. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, please?
Ma'am, can I have a question, please?
Yes, please, carry on.
Ma'am, my name is Sarathi. I am from Kolkata.
Yes.
I am an UG final year student. So, ma'am, I want to ask you something as from neuroscience view, that how love helps us positively develop ourselves. what is the basis that means something I want to say means in my personal life, I have just got some warm affection from somebody, but and that is helping me in evolving myself. How does it helping me to evolve?
Isn't that so? There is so much evidence in neuroscience research. We even know some of the chemicals that are released. I give you some of the names. No, some of these are all names that we have already, we know many of these. It could be serotonin, dopamine. These are the old neurochemicals, but some new research is happening, and one of the lesser known neurochemical that is released when either we are in love or when we receive love, and especially that love when it is unconditional. I mean, that is that pure love, like what Swamiji says, and what his guru, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, used to say, ahaituka priti, without any taint, unconditional love. There is a new chemical called Anandamide. Ananda, you can understand. MIDE. Mide is that it's a suffix that is used for all of these neuropeptides, neurochemicals. There is a chemical called Anandamide that is released whenever somebody is happy, whenever somebody is in love, and that is truly what helps us. This is a happy chemical. And these days I have heard even in students, high school students, popping certain pills that are given by their doctors. They call them as happy pills. They take external pills. We don't need any of that. All the chemicals that are given, by doctors, we can release that by ourselves through the thought process. As Swami Bodhamayananda ji mentioned earlier about, I think he mentioned about the depression workshop, right? This is where we are going to talk about how we can release all those antidepressant chemicals that are given as pills. The same chemicals we can release by training our mind, by training our brain, not just the mind, also the brain. And we can release these chemicals on command to be able to overcome even depression. So as much now, we in psychology and psychiatry, we know most of the diseases that are caused are because of our thought patterns and because of the imbalance of chemicals in the brain, that is happening because of the negative chemicals. In a similar manner, if we train our mind and brain with these healing feelings, healing emotions, it could be love, it could be gratitude, it could be empathy, it could be true understanding. All of these can release these healing chemicals to be able to change that imbalance. So it was a great question. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone want to ask question? Please unmute yourself. Any questions, please?
Madam,
Yes,
this is
please.
Shyam Babu from Bangalore. Namaste.
Namaste.
Madam, what would be the impact of external medicines on long-term depressions?
There are many different types of antidepressants. I think we can take that in the next, because that is out of topic from what I have said. If you can please ask the question regarding to whatever I have spoken, it would be helpful. But having said that, I will just mention this. There are many different types of antidepressants. Some of the more recent ones are much better than the earlier ones that are used. I cannot just give a general answer which is good and which is not. It depends on the individual. I know people who are taking antidepressants for several decades and they're doing okay. what I'm saying is, for some people, medicine is a must. So it is quite okay to be taking, but we also know, the newer research shows just taking medicine may not be as effective if we can combine it with some kind of either talk therapy. We don't even need to go to a therapist, honestly, counselor. That is what the new depression series is going to be talking about, how we can be our own counselors. If we understand, we're going to go deeper into that if we understand ourselves. So if you have any other questions, anybody else, if you can stick to the crisis, it would help. But this is also, many people do get into depression because of crisis. So this question is also quite relevant. However, I have not touched upon depression aspect in under crisis management. That's all.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Saiti. I have a question.
Yeah.
As you mentioned about amygdala hijacking in the first lecture, during the first phase, you said that there is a loss of power of discrimination, that we don't recognize what is bad and what is good for us. And also we lose the willpower to even act upon what is bad for us. So in that case, when we know something is bad, eventually we'll get to know when we repeat doing the things that are bad for us, we get to know that is bad for us. But there is a loss of control, that even though we know it is bad for us, we keep on doing it because as you mentioned, there is no lack of there is really clearly lack of control. So how do we address that?
Even though we know right now, the way we have given that information as knowledge, this is common for everybody. Until now, when we are stressed out or when that happens, when we know we lack control, it's only because me. We keep on thinking it's only something wrong with me. What I'm saying here is, it is not about right or wrong. This is what happens. This is what leads to anxiety. This is what leads to fear. This is what leads to the fear of uncertainty. So this kind of knowledge, and it is not just for me, nothing wrong with me. It is because of such kind of thought processes, that knowledge itself will empower us. And then we have to figure out various different means. It could be being mindful. It could be by doing all the things like eating properly, having daily routine, exercising. All of these baby steps will help. And I took a broad general perspective because in crisis, there will be so many different people will respond to crisis in many different ways. So it has to be even symptoms specific too. So that is why I kept it in a broad general manner. But just that knowledge, it's not that something is wrong with me because of such thought processes. If I get such thoughts, this is what is going to happen. This is the norm. If I have negative thought, negative chemical will be released. Then all I have to do, as Swamiji said earlier in the introduction, pratipaksha bhavana, then I have to replace it with positive thought or a neutral thought. This knowledge is what is going to help. And then I will tell you, just listening to it once may not be enough. This is where, who are we associating with? Are we associating with the people who also give the similar type of message and help us and boost us up, rather than pulling us down, giving even more negative information about the pandemic or about the crisis? This is where, who we are associating with, especially during crisis. All the time, it's a given. And especially so during crisis is so important. It's so important. This is where that interpersonal relationships are so crucial. they are the ones who are going to help us out. And with the similar type of knowledge that the whole group will have, each one will pull somebody else up at different times. Because even taking this example of pandemic, rather than being in a private room, if somebody has to be hospitalized, instead of being in a private room, sometimes it is better to share that room with few others. Because I'm saying this through not my own experience, through an experience of my friend who went through, shared her room with 4 others, and everybody was going through ups and downs at various different times. Others were there to pull them up. So who you are associating with, having the right knowledge is very important. And not resisting, and to be able to take help is also extremely important.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So let's take a last question for the session. Anyone, please? You want to ask question?
I think it's Akshita.
Ma'am,
Okay. Yes.
this is Gopal. Can I ask one question?
Certainly.
Ma'am, how to control the mind, whether all the time negative thoughts are coming, how to come out of the where it is disturbed with somebody else in the family or outside, you should know.
Yeah. Probably, Gopal, you must be new. I have to do a plug-in here. Swamiji here in Hyderabad is continuously arranging courses on mind management from various different angles. No, I'm sure there are going to be several more coming up. You could check with the host or with Swamiji when you attend those, because in 30 seconds it is not possible for me to tell, except trying to give you one tip to be mindful, stay in the present moment, without judging others, without judging yourself, without blaming others, without blaming yourself or the situation. Be mindful and be grateful. These two will help you to overcome negativity and to help you train your mind. These are the 2 tools. But get some more information from our VIHE volunteers, and please attend those mind management courses. It will do you immense good, Gopal.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Any questions still?
Thank you, ma'am, for this brilliant session.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful section. As usual, your section is wonderful. Many healthy and positive thoughts of life you have imparted to us, ma'am, comparing each aspect with Swamiji quotation. Really, our day made with your valuable teaching section, ma'am. Warm greetings to you on behalf of all participants. Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste.
And
shall we finish with the
few announcements.
shloka?
We have few announcements for all participants. So please wait for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Ma'am, you can leave, ma'am, if you...
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Namaste.
you so much, ma'am. Namaste, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, few announcements. Please note the upcoming courses of VIHE. A section is going to start on Monday. That is Communication Skills Online Basic Course. 23rd of November to 28th November. Section duration is 6 days. Time morning section 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Fees will be 250. 16 to 30 years age group can attend this course. And the next is on same day it is going to this course is also commencing on the same day, that is Monday to Friday, evening section 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Course name is Steps to Overcome Depression. 5 days course and 250 rupees. 16 to 50 years age group can attend this course. And every on Saturday, Bhagavad Gita classes are conducted by Swami Bodhayanandaji from 5:45 to 6:45 p.m. You could all visualize live telecast from Ramakrishna Math Hyderabad YouTube channel. And next is every Sunday we have VIHE conducts powerful webinar section which deals with moral and social customs of the society. The chief guest for the Sunday is Anva Simha, who is Padma Shri awardee and world's first woman amputee to climb Mount Everest, Lucknow. Host is Swami Bodhayanandaji, director of VIHE Ramakrishna Math Hyderabad. And we will have also some musical performance by volunteers and devotees from Bengaluru. So you could visualize this live from RKM at Hyderabad channel. Webinar will be live on Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence YouTube channel. So this was the all announcements. And for any updates, sir?
Madam, one clarification I need, madam. Madam, I have seen that some language classes are being conducted by VIHE, but is there any possibility of conducting online courses like learning Sanskrit from
yes,
our
sir.
great...
We have, sir. We have foreign languages, Sanskrit, Hindi, all this.
It is not foreign language, madam. Sanskrit, I want, in
Sanskrit,
fact,
yes, sir.
Online, is it possible, madam? Online?
Yes, sir, definitely, sir. You can contact VIHE, sir.
VIHE.
All these updates are available from VIHE, Vivekananda Institute of Long.
I read through the website. It is mentioned that it is a in-class training like that. It is mentioned like that.
No, sir. Presently, virtual classes are going, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I will mail you
contact
further. These Sanskrit classes, I will mail you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
So, ma'am, when the foreign classes will start, ma'am?
Sorry, sir?
When the foreign language class?
Again, notifications will be kept in December, sir. In December, they'll keep the notifications again, sir. Every 3 months, they'll keep the they'll give the notifications, sir.
Okay. And one more thing I want to know, this Sunday 11 a.m. the program will be there, right?
Yes,
in
sir.
which
Yes.
webinar we need to go? In RKM at Hyderabad?
No, sir. Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence YouTube channel, sir.
Okay, RKM at Hyderabad
no, sir,
YouTube.
That is for chanting and all. This is for webinars and all. From
that
VIHE.
is for Bhagavad Gita class, sir.
Okay, got it.
Madam, with regard to these language classes, could you able to provide the correct information tomorrow?
Definitely, sir. I'll provide you.
Okay.
Actually,
Thank you.
all these updates are available in websites, sir. VIHE sites. But
okay.
Anyway, I'll send you the details, sir.
Actually, ma'am, sorry to interrupt. I have gone through the website.
Okay.
It is mentioned that they are conducting in-house classes. But we are now fortunately we many of the people are being in touch with VIHE or Vivekananda, our Ramakrishna Math Hyderabad through Zoom classes, Zoom classes. So it will be beneficial for all people, those who want to learn different languages. In particular, I am interested in learning Sanskrit. That's why.
Definitely, sir. I will help out you. Tomorrow, I'll take all details from VIHE.
Okay, better you prepare a slide and put it.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, ma. Thank you very much.
Sir. So,
one more thing. Okay.
Please, sir.
Hi. Do you have any idea on when the mind management courses will start?
I still notification not yet given, sir. If given, I'll let you know, sir, tomorrow.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay. Presently, these are the courses. These 2 courses are starting from tomorrow, Monday, sir. Communication skills and steps to overcome depression. And this is every on Saturday. This program will be taken in, and wonderful webinars will be conducted on every Sunday, sir, at 11 a.m. So thank you so much.
So let's end with the session with the Shanti mantra. Om Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanastu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Jai Shri Ram Krishna. Meet you all tomorrow. Namaste.
Krishna.